Ever since FNAF released over 10 years ago, the game franchise has garnered a wide and diverse audience of fans all across the world, and regardless of if you joined the fanbase in 2014 or recently, the love us fans have for the games is something most other gaming fanbases can't compare to. But with FNAF turning 11 years old in the next couple of weeks, a lot of things relating to the franchise, whether it be the games, books, teasers, trailers, or all the fan-made content, is now going to also be turning 11 years old too. So now is as good as a time as ever to reminisce on all the things that made us FNAF fans fall in love with the series, and take a look into many of the things that we might have forgotten about the games and the community over the past 11 years. So regardless of if you're brand new to the series, or a veteran to it, this is the FNAF Nostalgia Iceberg Explained, where me and a few other FNAF YouTubers go over some of the most nostalgic pieces of FNAF content from way back in the day, ranging from the OG songs, animations, fan games, theories, and so much more. So if you need something to listen to in the background while you work, or need something to go to sleep to while simultaneously educating yourself and reminiscing on everything there is to know about FNAF nostalgia, then this is the perfect video for you. Now, I don't think I need to explain what an iceberg is, since everyone should know what one is at this point, so I'm not going to bother to do so. But before I do get into the iceberg, I just want to thank all the YouTubers on screen right now who helped me research and collaborated with me on this project, as their help, along with their own memories and feelings of nostalgia, helped make this video be made and feel even more personal, and more nostalgic for me, and I'm sure it will with you too. Anyways, timestamps are available if you want to skip to certain segments or if you need to rewatch. But anyways, make sure to subscribe if you love iceberg videos, and let's get into it. FNAF teasers. Now, to start off the iceberg, I don't think there's a more appropriate entry to talk about rather than the early FNAF teasers that were posted on the Scott Cawthon's website, scottgames.com, from 2014 to 2018. With there being over 200 teasers posted on the Scott's website from 2014 to when he retired, there is a lot to take in, but the most nostalgic ones are the ones that were posted for FNAF 2, 3, 4, World, and Sister Location, as these ones captured the mysterious and secretive vibe the best out of all teasers posted onto his website, with many of these ones needing to be brightened up to actually see what was featured in said teasers. Obviously, we have the classics, like the first FNAF 2 teaser with Withered Freddy, the FNAF 3 one with Springtrap hidden in the darkness, which people thought was another animatronic called Salvage or Fredtrap back in the day. Plus, we also got the FNAF 4 ones which featured the Nightmare animatronics. Then of course, we also got the Halloween update ones for FNAF 4, along with the awesome FNAF World ones, and after that, the Sister Location ones. I just remember when the FNAF 2 to FNAF 4 ones began releasing, because whenever one would drop, you'd have YouTubers like Dawko, FusionZ Gamer, XX Pro Class Gamer XX, along with a few other people immediately dropping a 10-minute video explaining what this could mean for the game. Like, I remember some days when I would just come home from school and I would just see that one of them made a video theorizing on what was in these teasers, and honestly, it was just some of the best parts of my childhood. Looking forward to watching these videos about these teasers. Like this FNAF 2 Foxy one, I vividly remember when people thought that this was a screenshot of a free roam mode that would be in FNAF 2, and that this teaser took place in the back room of the pizzeria, where the night guard was hiding from Foxy. Of course, this wasn't true, but oh boy did 10-year-old me not care. All I cared about was hearing the theories of what could have been seen in the next games. I also remember the same thing happening for the FNAF 2 teaser of the prize counter area, where the puppet is seen coming out of the box, because when it released, people didn't know what it was, but we didn't even need to theorize on it because a couple hours later, Scott dropped FNAF 2 anyways. Then when the first FNAF 3 teaser dropped, well, don't even get me started. All of these teasers give me very fond memories of when FNAF was in its Wild West days, and honestly, I'll never forget these memories. But I'll also never forget the trailers, which are well in the next layer. FNAF trailers. Now, just like the teasers, I still remember where I was when they released, along with all the videos, theories, etc. that would come out right after one of these trailers would drop, and it was too some of the most nostalgic memories I have in my life. Personally, the only trailers I find nostalgic are the ones pre-Steel Wool era, So that includes the FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, and sister location ones. Mainly because, again, the same with the teasers, they just have a special unique Scott Cawthon charm to them. I don't know how else to put it. They all just have that early Click Team Scott Cawthon aesthetic to them. They are dark, slow, suspenseful, and at times they even feel a little bit gritty in a way, mainly with the FNAF 1, 2, and 3 trailers. They aren't overproduced, and they help to build around 95% of the hype around these games each time a trailer released, with the 5% of the hype coming from the teasers and YouTube videos made about them. I don't think I really need to explain these trailers, as I am sure that everyone has seen them at least once or twice, and if not, you have at least seen clips of them, as some of these trailers, just like the teasers, sparked a lot of theories in the early days of FNAF's existence, like in the FNAF 2 trailer, where when Withered Foxy jump scares the player, people thought he was saying freedom, as if he was escaping the pizzeria by killing the night guard. Some of these trailers, primarily the FNAF 1 trailer, also sparked some rumors as well, with there being claims of an alternative FNAF 1 trailer that showed a different endoskeleton at the part where Bonnie takes his face off, which also helped fuel the popularity of the games, as the mystery along with the lore was also a big reason the game got so popular. But I have full entries for those later on in this iceberg, but let's look a little bit deeper into the game's popularity and how it got popular in the next entry. Markiplier. Obviously, I don't need to explain who this is or why he is here, because any FNAF fan from 2014 to 2017, hell, even to today, can probably blame Markiplier for the reason they are into FNAF, as is the reason I am into FNAF. His FNAF videos, especially the ones about FNAF 1 and 2, are a big reason the franchise got as big as it did, as his videos are some of the most popular about the game to ever be posted onto YouTube or just onto the internet ever, even 10 years later. From his thumbnails, video formats, and almost daily uploads, each of these videos were again another blessing for me to look forward to after a long day of elementary school, and if not for him and his videos about FNAF, I might not have even become a YouTuber, because if I was never introduced into FNAF, I don't know where I'd be right now, because I wouldn't know the amazing people I do now, along with having you guys as an audience, because simply I just don't think I would be a YouTuber. I still remember exactly where I was when I first saw Markiplier's first FNAF video come up on YouTube, and it's one of the most prominent memories I'll ever have about FNAF. I was at my sister's house, and after me and a couple of my family members stopped playing together or roughhousing or whatever we were doing, I can't remember, I remember sitting on her couch and I opened my terrible old Android phone and went onto YouTube, where I saw that Markiplier posted "Warning, scariest game in years, Five Nights at Freddy's Part 1, just an hour before, where upon seeing that title, I was instantly intrigued on what the game was, and ever since that day, I was hooked, and over the next 2 weeks, I would eagerly wait for his next FNAF videos to release, and this is when FNAF was born. So yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that Markiplier is the main reason a lot of people, including me, know about FNAF, and he is the reason it is popular as it is today. Looking through the comments of these videos, and even the trailers, you still see people even to this day commenting on these videos saying stuff about how nostalgic these videos are for them, and that they come back to them from time to time as they are comforting in a way, probably because of the nostalgia these videos bring them. But I think the same can also be said for the next entry. Oh yeah, and I also can't forget that Markiplier was one of the first people to beat 420 mode in FNAF 1, along with like the rest of the challenges in the FNAF series, you know, hence why he's the king of FNAF, and also kind of created Golden Freddy in a way by naming him, well, Golden Freddy. Anyways, yeah, next entry. FNAF songs. You can't mention FNAF nostalgia without mentioning the music, with FNAF songs being too one of the main reasons for the game's success, as many songs with the artists of said songs ranging from The Living Tombstone, Tryhard Ninja, Madame Macabre, Say Maxwell, Nate Wants a Battle, CG5, Groundbreaking, JT Music, and so many more being the main heavy hitters for the niche as a whole, creating some of the most popular and memorable songs about FNAF to ever exist. There is so much to say about these artists, and the milestones they set with their songs, and even though it would take too long to go over each of these artists individually, there are some that will be brought up again later in later entries that will be, you know, I'll be able to go over more information and talk about them there instead. I mean, geez, the more I think about FNAF songs and the people who created them, the more names just keep popping into my head. It's honestly so impressive how the community has used the music to shape itself and also express its creativity and love for the series in audio form. Again, I still have exact memories of me listening to some of these songs, and memories that still haven't faded, as I remember multiple occurrences in my mind of where I would just be listening to these songs while sitting on my couch or while rebuilding the FNAF Pizzeria in Minecraft and stuff, and so many more situations like these. There are literally so many songs out there that it would need to be a completely separate video to go over each of them, along with the specific artist and so on. But let me say that Tryhard Ninja has got to be one of the most underrated artists to ever make FNAF music. Sure, The Living Tombstone is great, and there's no denying that, but if you were a FNAF fan from 2014 to 2017, you would know that bro was on a generational run with his songs, as each of them were absolute bangers, especially It's Me and Circus of the Dead. Say Maxwell also had a song that cooked extremely, and was extremely underrated, and still is, with that being their Five Nights at Freddy's 2 song, because even though I can't play it in the video for copyright reasons, it had to be one of the hardest beats out of any FNAF song to ever exist around that time, even in today's standards. I mean, I could just yap and yap and yap for hours about these songs, in the way that they tell the game's stories, and how they interpret things, and etc. But there are still a few more music related entries in this video, so I'll just wait until we get to some of those, or else this entry would be a couple hours long, just like how the next entry would have. FNAF hoaxes. FNAF hoaxes, one of the best things to ever exist in the world of gaming, and I don't even know where to begin. Ever since FNAF's inception, hoaxes and rumors plagued the franchise, with each hoax perfectly blending into the already mysterious nature of the games. But of course, the reason they are on this iceberg is because of how nostalgic many of them are, mainly because a majority of them, like Sparky the Dog and the Purple Guy animatronic, are some of the first and most popular ones to ever exist. Also, shout out to Roxo1987, the creator of the Purple Guy animatronic. I see you subscribed to my channel. Bro literally created a part of my childhood, and now he is like subscribed to me and follows me on Twitter and stuff. Absolute legend. It's awesome to see that. Now, obviously, there are way more hoaxes in the franchise, with some more being Fred Trap, as I mentioned earlier, Nightmare JJ, and just literally hundreds more. I can't go over all of them or even begin to say all of them. These hoaxes, like primarily the Purple Guy animatronic, scared me so bad as a kid, but also intrigued me, and is the reason I have over 50 plus hours on FNAF 2, because as a kid, I remember trying to find him in my game while I played on my mom's laptop, and I was just so intrigued by it. Every video that would come out about the Purple Guy or even any other FNAF 2 hoax, I would just watch immediately to afterwards then try to find it. Ah, good times. I miss those days. Also, I have a couple of other videos on my channel, like the FNAF Hoax Supercut, where I go over tons of FNAF hoaxes, from the most nostalgic ones to some of the newer ones, so if you want to see a more in-depth look into FNAF hoaxes, then I will link it at the end of this video. But anyways, next entry. The Living Tombstone. The Living Tombstone doesn't need an introduction, just like how Markiplier didn't, because every FNAF fan, and even the non-FNAF fans, know who this is, and know why they are on this iceberg. The Living Tombstone is the creator and basically is the pioneer for all FNAF fan songs that were ever made, as their music has quite literally revolutionized the FNAF genre as a whole, with their music being so iconic that their FNAF 1 song was obviously featured in the FNAF movie's credits. And well, I think they're probably, I don't know, their FNAF 2 and 3 songs will also be featured in, well, the second and third movie. Honestly, there isn't much to say except that any FNAF fan has listened to at least one of their songs, whether it be in the background of a video, at a concert, or by actively listening to it on Spotify or YouTube or something. Everyone knows who they are, and the impact they had on the FNAF community, and even other gaming communities as well. These guys are legends in their own accord, and honestly, this entry doesn't even do them justice. FNAF fan games. Five Nights at Treasure Island, One Night at Flumpty's, Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Fuckboys, Five Nights at Wario's, The Return of the Freddy's, The Joy of Creation, and so many more are some of the first FNAF fan games to come to mind when going over nostalgic FNAF fan games. And honestly, it's kinda crazy how many were made from 2014 to 2016. These games were staples and again, pioneers for almost all future FNAF fan games that would proceed to come out afterwards, as these games took the formula that made FNAF work and decided to give them their own own twist, with 5 Nights at Treasure Island being based off of a Disney creepypasta, Flumpty's taking place in one night, and being based on fairy tale characters, Fuckboys being a shitpost RPG game about FNAF, and literally all of these games recreating FNAF in their own unique ways. FNAF's simplicity is what allowed all of these games to be made, and because of that, a lot of people were able to create fan games, especially right after the first game came out. And since they came out around the same time FNAF began to get popular, many YouTubers that played FNAF also played these fan games, which also helped many people get introduced into the franchise. Honestly, there are so many FNAF fan games from around 2015 that going over them would also need to be a separate video. But all that needs to be said about these games is that they led a giant movement in the community, and because of that, FNAF fan games are still being made to this day, with even some of them officially being licensed by Scott Cawthon, which is awesome. FNAF Easter eggs. Now, personally, this entry is only applicable for the first 4 games in my opinion, as the rest of the Easter eggs in the FNAF franchise just aren't as nostalgic or even iconic as the ones from the first 4 games, and mainly it's just because of how many these games had. Each of these games had over 10 completely separate and unique Easter eggs in them, which is a lot considering the amount of gameplay these games had, with a majority of them just being rare camera screens, hidden animatronics, and unique objects that would be seen inside the pizzeria / building. Many people consider these Easter eggs, especially the rare screens and rare camera screens, the most nostalgic, as you would see these everywhere whenever you would go on YouTube, as so many people would make videos and theories about what these Easter eggs could mean and if there was more hidden lore about them. I know anyone who was a FNAF fan back in 2015 remembers the Smike videos that would be like the, I don't know, what was it, like the top 10 FNAF Easter eggs or something along these lines, as these videos would always feature a screenshot of an Easter egg for the thumbnail, and in the video he would always say incorrect information about the Easter eggs and stuff. I don't know, I just remember that. It's fond memory for me. Don't worry though, he's in another segment in this video and we go over a little bit more, in depth with him, so don't worry guys, he's coming up soon. But yeah, these Easter eggs were a huge part of what made FNAF popular as well, and made me like it, as they helped me make the game feel even more mysterious, which combined with the lore, made the games just more intriguing to me. And speaking about lore, let's get to the next entry. FNAF lore. FNAF lore, I don't even, where do I begin here? Well, I guess I can start by saying that this is before it was completely destroyed, and before any major retcons existed, before the sci-fi elements existed, and before the Mimic came in, along with the books. FNAF 1 to FNAF 3, in my opinion, was perfect lore, and honestly it worked, and it felt a little bit more grounded compared to modern FNAF, and even though we had spooky ghost children, Springtrap, and just, well, obviously animatronics that moved on their own, it worked, and was honestly pretty spooky. This was a time when only the Bite of 87 existed, and when people thought the purple guy was named Vincent for some reason. Even though the lore was still flawed, it felt way more concise and was a bit more ambiguous on what the story was, and how certain things worked, like the animatronics moving, and how William Afton was still alive in Springtrap. This helped make the story feel a bit more personalized in a way, as any theory around this time could have been true until after FNAF 4, Sister Location, and the rest of the games came out, where they tried to solve all the questions about the lore, which made it lose its mystery and ambiguous nature, along with the retcons that destroyed all the previous lore. I may be biased, but I don't care. I liked what FNAF was originally about, and I liked the mystery of it from back in the day, because the FNAF 3 ending was peak, and sure, FNAF 6 was also a great ending, but FNAF 3 just felt better. It just felt more complete. The lore was still a mystery, and because of that, I feel like it helped with the horror. But that's not what we have, so all we can do is just reminisce on when FNAF was a little bit more simple and not as complicated as it is today. FNAF animations.
Okay, do I really even need to say anything for this entry? FNAF animations are one of the main reasons for the popularity of FNAF today. I mean, we got 5 AM at Freddy's, Fortnite at Freddy's, 5 Nights at Freddy's Troll Palace, and of course the thousands of other ones including 2D animations, SFM animations, and even Minecraft FNAF parodies, all within the span of 2 years since the first FNAF game was released. These animations include character personalities created by fans, such as Balloon Boy loving AA batteries from 5 AM at Freddy's, Chica's love for pizza, which even though it was originally shown in How to Make FNAF Not Scary, FNAF animations have pushed the meme further, to include Chica saying pizza in Security Breach and eating garbage. Yes, I wish I were joking. Looking up FNAF animations on Google, there are over 1.7 million results. Now, just let that sink in. Now, due to so many fan-made videos and animations of FNAF, it's pretty hard to keep track of them all and go over them, just due to the sheer amount of them on the internet. But they still need to be brought up, just like the other pieces of FNAF media were, because even though not many people think about it like this, FNAF became popular because of the amount of community content made about the games, and it's nice to give some of the OGs some recognition. As much as I'd love to talk about FNAF animations all day, I'd like to thank Gavin for having me in this video, and let's move on to layer 2.
Fan-made models. Now, before we had good models of the FNAF animatronics for animations, fan games, and etc., we had models that were, well, to put it, I guess honestly, they were bad, but they were charming in their own right. Mainly, I am referring to the Splink models that came out in late 2014, which was seen primarily in Gary's mod videos, animations, and basically anything that was related to SFM. We also had a couple more early models of FNAF animatronics, with some of those including the early versions of the FNAF 2 animatronics, FNAF 3 Springtrap, and even the FNAF 4 ones. Plus, you can't forget those weird anime ones that seemingly don't exist on the internet anymore, and oh yeah, also we had the draw kills. Unfortunately, I don't remember all the actual names of these ones, if they even had any, but if you know what I am talking about, then you know what I mean. Along with these fan models, we also had a lot of Roblox and Minecraft iterations of them too, which were all very different for each game, or the mod, or whatever it was, and etc. But these also existed very early on in FNAF's life, with some of these models existing just days after the first game was released. Because of this, we also got very early maps of the Pizzeria for FNAF 1 and 2, which we will also be going over a little bit more in depth in another entry, but don't worry, I am not going to forget all the Pizzeria maps and all that stuff that was, in FNAF's early days. But anyways, let's get to the next entry. FNAF World Hate. Remember when FNAF World was universally hated by the FNAF community when it was announced and released? Well, I do, and no, it wasn't universally loved like how it is today, because even though it may seem like everyone loves the game now, it wasn't always like this, because when the game first came out, almost everyone in the community hated it, mainly because it was not a typical FNAF game, and was different. The hate got so bad to the point to where Scott actually released a teaser onto his website, where it features Toy Foxy from FNAF World hanging from what appears to be a noose, but that's until you look closer into the image, where you can see that they actually have a string in their mouth, with text on the bottom that says "See what you've done," which was directly targeted towards the people hating on the game. Even though as years passed, people began to look at the game in a more positive light due to rose-tinted glasses or whatever it was, I still will never forget y'all for hating on Scott's passion project like this, because even though it wasn't quote-unquote typical FNAF, it was still a part of FNAF regardless, and Scott clearly put a lot of time and effort into it, but at least things are different now. But still, I'm not forgiving y'all. If you hated FNAF World back in the day and made Scott all depressed and stuff, I hate you. FNAF creepypastas.
Many FNAF fans may not be aware that between 2014 and 2015, FNAF actually had a lot of creepypastas written about the game's lore and assortment of characters. One of the most popular FNAF creepypastas was the Hidden Lore series by Mr. Creepypasta. He and a few other YouTubers collaborated to tell a creepypasta story in a format similar to an audio drama. He also narrated a similar creepypasta titled The Real Chuck E. Cheese. The popularity of these creepypastas helped form the way for more FNAF creepypastas to be made. Even though the Hidden Lore series is one of the most popular to date, there were still multiple stories that came out around that time, with some now unlisted, deleted, privated, and even being lost media. But even now, some people are still making creepypasta stories about FNAF, and regardless of the quality, it's really nice to see that people are still making them.
Dr. Creepypasta.
This entry will likely resonate with many of you older FNAF fans out there. On March 4th, 2015, a YouTuber by the name of Dr. Creepypasta uploaded a video titled Real Freddy Fazbear. In this video, he showed off a real-life Freddy Fazbear animatronic. This was one of the first ever fan-made FNAF animatronics on YouTube. He then proceeded to upload more videos highlighting the animatronic's movements while performing an assortment of songs and sound effects from the games. Then about a year later, on August 16th, 2015, he uploaded a video titled The Five Nights at Freddy's Band First Look. In this video, Dr. Creepypasta showed off real-life animatronic versions of Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Springtrap. He even had them in front of a stage resembling the one from the first FNAF game. These are likely the first FNAF animatronics ever made. He then made a separate video highlighting each of the newly created animatronics, showing off all their individual movements as they performed a variety of speaking parts. He continued to make videos up until November 24th, 2017, when he then seemingly disappeared from the face of YouTube. That is, until his recent return in February, when he uploaded a video explaining where he and his animatronics have been. He has now returned to making videos with the original animatronics, as well as other horror-themed videos in general. If you're interested in hearing more about Dr. Creepypasta and where I've been, oh yeah, by the way, I'm Dr. Creepypasta. I probably should have said that earlier. Anyways, you can check out the interview that I had with Gavin that will be featured at the end of this video.
XX Pro Class Gamer XX. This is a name I'm sure many of you haven't heard in a very long time, as XX Pro Class Gamer XX was one of the first original FNAF YouTubers to ever exist, alongside Dawko and Fusion Z Gamer. Pro Class was one of the couple of YouTubers who made the videos I was talking about in the teaser and trailer entries, as his videos were primarily about going over these things, along with going over the game's Easter eggs, theories, and so much more. He would also play many early fan games, along with playing FNAF Gmod with Dawko, which were some of my favorite videos from him. He even rescued a chicken which he named Chica, which would appear in some of his vlogs and YouTube videos. But in around 2016, if I'm correct, his house caught fire and Chica unfortunately passed away, and his channel kept getting demonetized, which all caused him to leave YouTube. But fortunately, he has made a small return and is still alive and doing well. Honestly, his videos were the best and were some of the most funny. He was straight to the point and his theories were always something I looked forward to watching after I got home from school. Honestly, I hope he is doing fine after everything that happened to him, and luckily for me, I was actually able to talk to Dawko during PAX West last year about how he is doing, and Dawko said that he is doing alright and that they talk occasionally, which makes me happy. FNAF fan theories. I think all I need to say for this entry is, well, game theory, because oh boy did MatPat opens Pandora's box with his first theory video. But he wasn't the only one making theories back in the day, because we also had theories such as Nazis made the animatronics theory, or the Mike kill all theory, or who could forget the Foxy is a good guy theory. The amount of theories back then was ridiculous, but were still better than the majority of the theories nowadays. Actually, I lied, both were equally as bad, but the older theories had more charm though in my opinion, except for a few like the Nazi one and the MatPat's first theory. Remember when he thought FNAF was based on a real shooting? I do, because who else but MatPat would think of something just so stupid? I mean, I guess if it was going to be anyone, of course it would be him. I don't even know what else to say for this entry, but yeah, FNAF had some wild theories back in the day, and a lot of them have helped actually formulate the story somehow and help develop it a bit by giving Scott ideas to further improve upon or actually add later down the line, which is pretty neat, I guess. You are a pirate. If the song used in every one of these videos wasn't copyrighted, I would have just played a video of this and that would have been it for this section. But since the song is from the Lazy Town show, of course it is. Now, You Are a Pirate is one of the first memes to come out about FNAF, where in these memes, you would see Foxy from either FNAF 1 or 2, where in these videos, whether it be an animation or a clip from his jump scare or anything relating to Foxy, these videos would play this song, where the first part of the song goes, You Are a Pirate, and that was it. Some of these videos would feature the full song, or other various memes or characters related to FNAF, but the idea was always the same. Show a video or clip of Foxy while playing this part of the song, and that was it. And now it's a piece of FNAF history as one of FNAF's most old, iconic, and best memes ever made. Gmod models / maps. Now this entry is very similar to the entry earlier about the fan-made models for the animatronics, except that this entry is more about the fan-made Gmod maps about the pizzerias rather than the models, because these maps also need to get recognition due to how iconic they are. As I mentioned in previous entries too, you'd see these maps being played by YouTubers like Pro Class Gamer, along with a few others who are also featured in this Iceberg later on, But what made these maps so important and special is the fact that these maps were some of the first maps to ever show a 3D fully explorable version of the pizzerias, which allowed for many people to actually get an idea for what the full pizzerias would look like. These maps also included various secrets, and some even allowed actual FNAF-like gameplay, where you could fend off against the animatronics and actually try to survive the night. Some of these maps also had multiplayer versions, where one person could control the animatronics, where another would try to survive against the onslaught of attacks. These maps were so fun to play on, especially as a kid, because when I was a kid, I remember asking my mom to buy me Gmod so I could just specifically play on these maps, and basically roleplay as the security guard trying to survive. Hell, I would even make up completely crazy and unique scenarios with the animatronics in these maps, like recreating the Bite of 87, the FNAF 1 death screen, and just so much more. These maps, along with the FNAF games themselves, are literally the reason I have Steam, because if not for these things, I would not have any other reason to play the game, especially playing it alone. But these things were some of the reasons I had a great childhood. Foxy running meme. Just like the "you are a pirate" meme, this one could have just sufficed with a video, but again, due to copyright, I can't show it. But this meme was about Foxy's running down the hall animation, where people absolutely memed the hell out of it, with the most popular version of it featuring this animation of Foxy running down the hall from FNAF 1, with the song "Break My Stride" by Matthew Wilder playing in the background, with some of the videos also featuring a caption about killing the night guard, or something along those lines. Yeah, that's about it for this one, but I mean, it's a simple meme, and was too one of the first to come out about FNAF, and its age definitely shows from a lot of these memes. But it's something that I think a lot of people have forgotten about since a lot more popular FNAF memes exist now. FNAF merch. Over the years, the one thing that has continuously been made, whether it be plushies, figures, clothes, or other accessories, have been all the pieces of FNAF merchandise, with some of the first pieces of FNAF merch coming out just months after the first game, with some of the first pieces of merch being the Sanchi plushies, Funko plushies, and the UCC keyring figures and plushies. Luckily, I was able to pick up the Sanchi plushies and the Funko ones last year at PAX and at Hot Topic due to each company re-releasing and selling some of the old stock they had of these plushies, which was amazing because I sold my only FNAF plushies I've ever owned, with those being the Funko ones at like a garage sale like 7 years ago when I was a kid, because just FNAF wasn't cool anymore and they had like stuff all over them and whatnot. These pieces of merch are highly nostalgic, as these are some of the best and most iconic pieces of FNAF merch ever made, and are way better than all the stupid reskins that are made now. The only part that sucks now is that almost every OG piece of FNAF merch is extremely overpriced now. Like the early Funko Pops now cost anywhere from $50 to $250, depending on the pop, which is just wild. But yeah, even though I don't know a lot about FNAF merchandise, I wish we could see more re-releases of early FNAF merchandise, because it's some of my favorites. But with that being said, let's move on to layer 3. Smike.
Smike is a FNAF YouTuber that has been forgotten by many due to time, but his impact on the community will never be forgotten. If you're not an OG FNAF fan or just don't know who Smike is, he was one of the most popular FNAF YouTubers in the early days, from like 2015 to 2017. His content was mostly top 10 videos, but he also had some extremely popular songs posted on his channel, like the original music video for It's Me by the Try Hard Ninja, which Smike actually had a hand in making. Not only that, but this dude was so well known in the FNAF community that there's actually a reference to him in Five Nights at Candy's 3 with a teddy bear dressed like his profile picture. With how popular this guy was, you may be wondering what happened to him and why he's pretty much forgotten now. This is because he has actually been through some controversy. Back in the day, he never actually played the FNAF games, but still posted videos about them, which led to pretty low effort content with a bunch of false information. He also stole a bunch of people's art without crediting them, and he eventually got cancelled because of this. It also led to his channel getting demonetized, so he eventually took down some of the content and re-uploaded it without the stolen art. After that, he kind of just disappeared from the internet, not really posting anything at all since then, and he's also changed his profile picture to a bowl of cereal. He did post a video about Poppy Playtime somewhat recently, but that's about it. His channel is pretty much dead now. However, his legacy will definitely live on. He had a huge impact on the FNAF community, and I will certainly never forget about him. Kind of sounds like I'm talking about a dead guy. He's very much still alive, I think.
FNAF OCs. FNAF OCs is something that doesn't really exist as much today, but back when FNAF was brand new, you would see a lot of these, with there being tons of different variants and designs people made regarding the animatronics, with the majority being forgotten due to time. There isn't really too much to say in this entry. I mainly just put it here as a reminder that yes, these were very prominent back in the day, and that instead of there being a lot of fan animatronics, there were actually more FNAF OCs rather than those. I can't remember if there were actually any good ones out there, because the majority of the ones my 10 to like 12-year-old mind remembers are the really ugly and terrible drawings and stuff that were made, but regardless, I thought I'd have to fit it in here somewhere as they are still pretty nostalgic. FNAF demos / mobile. Now, if you were anything like me as a kid and didn't have a computer, or if your parents didn't want to spend money on buying FNAF for you, this is where you most likely ended up. Before I was able to convince my mom on having me use her computer to play games on, this is how I played FNAF, and whenever I wasn't with her and couldn't play the game, I would just instead either watch YouTube videos of FNAF or play the demos for the game on my phone. These versions were the exact same as the PC versions, except the mobile versions had what I felt was easier gameplay and obviously just touchscreen controls to play with. The demos, on the other hand, though, were a little bit different because these versions had the same gameplay, but were missing features, such as the fact you couldn't progress past night 3, and that again, the gameplay felt different. These games were such a big part of my childhood, mainly because this was my first time ever playing a FNAF game on my phone, and because these versions just stick out in my memory because of the differences they had compared to the normal PC ports. Vanoss FNAF Gmod. Again, no introduction is needed, as everyone should know who Vanoss Gaming is, and if you don't, I am either getting super old or you live under a rock. This entry is about his couple of FNAF Gmod videos that showed him and his friends messing around on the maps, basically just being stupid and having fun. These videos are some of his most popular and arguably some of the best ever made, just because of how funny they are. Yes, I know he posted a few Left 4 Dead FNAF videos as well, along with a few other ones and stuff, but honestly, those videos can fall under this category as well, since the maps they played on were the same Gmod FNAF map for the most part. But yeah, not much to really say here except that these videos were absolutely amazing and were also a huge part of a lot of people's childhoods, and might also be some of people's first memories of FNAF. Who knows? Speed paint edits. Speed paint edits are something I never really watched back in the day, but I know it's something a lot of people did, and it was hard to avoid these because of how many people made videos regarding this around FNAF's early days. I remember a lot of people made videos about these, or just posted them speed painting various OCs, FNAF animatronics, hoaxes, and basically anything that was FNAF. Even nowadays, you can still see people post videos about these on YouTube, and post speed edits of actual renders and stuff now, which is honestly a big step up compared to the paint stuff, because even though that is still very cool, let's be real here, seeing people speedrun making FNAF games and renders and I don't know, just stuff like that is just way cooler than the paints and stuff. Anyways, next entry. PewDiePie.
I'm sure most of you know who PewDiePie is, but probably don't think of him as a FNAF YouTuber. However, he has actually made content about Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, back in the day, he played the first 4 FNAF games, but not many people really remember it because they weren't extremely popular. He was a few months late to the game, and they weren't really too iconic. I do remember watching them back in the day. I think I enjoyed them, but I don't really remember too much other than like, he didn't know the character's name, so he called like, I think Bonnie, he called Ruben or something like that, and his thumbnails were not FNAF. I think he had like a white bunny with blood on his face as one of the thumbnails, which was interesting. In the videos though, he did not seem to enjoy the games. He talked about how he thought they weren't scary and he thought the concept was boring, so that's probably why he ended up stopping after the 5th game. And if you have watched these videos, you may be wondering, what do you mean the 5th game? He only made videos about the first 4 FNAF games. But what you may not know is he did actually make a video about Sister Location when it released. He had a Markiplier mustache on, and he basically just mimicked Markiplier throughout the video. It was pretty boring compared to his other playthroughs. Not the best, so he did actually end up deleting it and stopped making videos about FNAF after that. However, another thing is in Scared PewDiePie, a series he made basically going through haunted houses. Episode 6 was called The Ultimate Hang and featured a FNAF-style haunted house where he was in an arcade and these people in mascot costumes tried to kill him. There was also Matt Pat and I believe the Game Grumps there as well. So if you were a big FNAF fan back in the day, you may remember PewDiePie's old videos. I sure do, but if you've never seen them, there's some information.
Venturian Tale. Another relic from the past, Venturian Tale was a group of YouTubers that would post Gmod videos of them messing around, reenacting certain scenarios, showcasing mods, and so much more. I never really watched them, but I do remember seeing a couple of their videos back in the day, and honestly, I don't know why I never really got into their content, because looking back on it now, it looks like something I would have really enjoyed. Alongside their extremely popular Gmod videos, they also posted Let's Plays of the FNAF games all the way up until about FNAF 6, where around that time, they eventually stopped posting FNAF videos and videos altogether. I see why many people find them nostalgic though. They captured early FNAF along with early YouTube really well, and watching their videos almost feels like watching a time capsule in a way. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything else to say, but I do know that, well, you guys probably do. So if you guys have any experiences or any of your favorite videos you want to talk about in the comments, feel free to, because just honestly, I never really watched them, so I can't really, say too much about them except for, well, everything I just did. Madame Macabre. Now, there is only one reason Madame Macabre is on this list, and it's because of her insanely underrated FNAF songs that I feel like no one remembers, which is honestly super depressing because her songs like Welcome to Freddy's are some of the best FNAF songs ever made. Even though she never really made FNAF videos except for these songs, her impact and legacy for her couple of FNAF songs will never be forgotten, and will always hold a special place in my heart. Unfortunately, there isn't really a lot of information about her online regarding FNAF as well. She's still posting nowadays and actually posted a video a couple days ago talking about, coming back to YouTube and stuff, but she was never really a FNAF YouTuber, same like with Vanoss and all those guys. So she doesn't really have much to really, talk about regarding FNAF, but she's still doing fine, which is good to see. FNAF Fright Dome.
Fright Dome is something that's been talked about a lot on the internet, especially on this channel, but it's for a good reason, as the FNAF Fright Dome was the first officially licensed FNAF themed haunted house to ever exist, and was available to visit for 1 year before inevitably being shut down. There's a lot to go over about it, like the fact that this attraction is now technically lost media, the fact that there isn't really any online footage of it in operation, along with so many more things. This whole attraction is honestly a huge rabbit hole to go down, just because of how mysteriously it vanished and because of how little footage of it exists online. But even though there isn't a lot of information about it online, there are a few videos posted on this channel that go over everything that is, which will be linked at the end of this video. When I went to the Fright Dome when I was 11 years old, the line for the FNAF attraction was over an hour long, being the longest line in that hotel by far. As we entered the haunted house, we were greeted by an attendant dressed as a guard who walked us through the maze. When I first entered, I got an aroma of something rotten or burnt, which was added on purpose. The rest of my experience is exactly what you can see on the internet. However, something that I saw that no one else has ever captured or talked about is that Spring Bonnie himself was in the maze. And no, not Springtrap, I do mean Spring Bonnie. He was bright yellow and he popped out of the covered curtain to jump scare the audience. The only evidence I have of Spring Bonnie being there is this mascot costume that's being sold of him, that is made by the same people that made the Fright Dome suits. The Fright Dome experience was cool, especially for its time. However, I just know Halloween Horror Nights is going to top it in every way possible.
SMG4.
Now, you may be asking yourself, what is an SMG4? And safe to say, SMG4 is someone who's gonna be a bit hard to explain, especially if you have no idea who they are. But just like the previous entries, if you do know who they are, you definitely know why. For those who don't know, SMG4 is a YouTuber who mainly posts animations and skits, usually evolving around the character of Mario and the original character SMG4 and the rest of the gang, and is also a member of Glitch Production, who makes the viral YouTube series The Amazing Digital Circus. But back around 10 years ago, they were a very different channel, like very different. And around this time, they also made a couple of Five Nights at Freddy's related videos, where Mario and the gang were put into various situations related to FNAF 1, 2, and 3, where in these videos, well, basically all hell breaks loose. And honestly, if you've never watched them, you just have to in order to understand what I'm talking about. These videos were practically some of the earliest forms of brain rot imaginable, featuring characters such as Chica being a bit too obsessed with pizza, and Freddy being, interesting, to say the least. And this combined with all the swearing and other inappropriate activities that can be seen in said videos, probably weren't good for any of us viewers at the time. But let's be real here, we were all probably way too young to be watching these videos anyways. But safe to say, nothing was funnier as a kid than watching Mario fight off the animatronics, which, safe to say, weren't possessed by the missing children. SMG4 really showed off FNAF Gmod in my opinion, and was definitely a massive influence on the FNAF animations and skits that came in the later years, and it's definitely something that you will never forget once you see it. But with that being said, let's move on to Layer 4.
Riskrim. Riskrim is another YouTuber who has unfortunately fallen into obscurity, but during FNAF 1 and 2, his videos were everywhere, and you could easily spot them because of his unique thumbnail style, which were unlike any others around that time. His channel primarily consisted of horror gaming videos, but when FNAF came out, he also integrated a lot of FNAF videos into his content, and he was one of the first people to actually play a majority of FNAF fan games on his channel, as a lot of his videos on his channel consist of FNAF fan games. He was a super down-to-earth guy, and he was pretty funny, which is one of the reasons I liked him and subscribed to him at the time. He was also one of the other YouTubers I would look forward to watching as a kid after school, but due to his inconsistent posting schedule after 2016, he began to fall into obscurity and is now forgotten by many. Honestly, looking back on him, he was just like any other normal Let's Player, hence why he probably kind of, fell into obscurity now, but still, his videos were really good, and he put a lot of time and effort into them, and his thumbnails are, well, they were really good and also always caught my attention, hence why I, watched him. But anyways, next entry. Chuck E. Cheese.
Now you may be asking why Chuck E. Cheese is on this iceberg, and honestly, if I were a new fan, I'd kinda be asking the same question. But if you're a FNAF fan from around 2014, you probably know why it's on this list. During FNAF 1 and 2, many people, especially younger people, correlated FNAF to Chuck E. Cheese in one way or another, whether it be because of the animatronics, pizzeria setting, or quite literally any other similar reason. When people thought of FNAF, they didn't think about William Afton, the missing children, or anything like that. They would think of Chuck E. Cheese and the influences around it, with it being so prominent. Many kids were afraid to go to the pizzeria because of the FNAF games, or were more intrigued to go because of it. When I first found out about FNAF, I got a huge interest to go check out my local Chuck E. Cheese, and I always thought the animatronics were super cool. The original FNAF game theory actually based the lore of FNAF around a real Chuck E. Cheese murder, which I find to be an interesting choice, MatPat. The idea that Chuck E. Cheese animatronics were creepy had definitely been around long before FNAF, but FNAF definitely popularized the idea. The original FNAF animatronics were all heavily inspired by places like Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza, but Chuck E. Cheese would just never embrace the idea of FNAF. They would block people on Twitter who mentioned it, and they gave their employees specific instructions on what to say if anyone brought it up to them. But even after all this, they tried to cash in on the franchise when the movie released by doing a Five Nights of Fun event. It was just a cheap knockoff. Either way, even though there definitely are similarities, they've tried their best to keep it all separate. But we can all remember a simpler time when it felt like Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't so different from a real-life restaurant.
FNAF books. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and please don't burn me on a stake for saying this, but I never read a FNAF book in my entire life. Now, let me preface by saying that this entry isn't to hate on newer FNAF books or the books at all, or say anything bad about them, especially since I'm a little bit more ignorant to things compared to like a normal FNAF book reader, but it's on this iceberg because of the original books, like the Silver Eyes, Twisted Ones, and the Fourth Closet. These books came out when I was in elementary school, and I remember wanting them really bad, but never being able to get a chance to read it due to me never being able able to buy it. Even though I never read these books, they are still super nostalgic to me due to me remembering them as a kid and seeing them in like the Scholastic book fairs and stuff. Luckily though, at PAX West last year, some of the Steel Wool employees were extremely nice to me and actually gifted me the Five Nights at Freddy's collection, which includes the 3 books in a trilogy along with a poster and a few other things, which I have yet to actually read and or open, just because of how sentimental it is to me. But I will open it one of these days and finally give these books a chance. Scrapped modes. Now this entry is probably going to be one of the shortest in this iceberg, mainly because there isn't really any scrapped modes for the FNAF games except for FNAF 6, where there is actually planned to be an endless tycoon mode for the game, where you wouldn't fight against the animatronics at the end of the night, or anything like that, but instead you would just build pizzerias, make money, and play it like a typical Roblox tycoon game. Unfortunately, it was scrapped though, and nothing like this was ever officially made, and just everything kind of went silent on it. Simplicity. This entry is about when FNAF was more simplistic than what it is today, and how many people find FNAF's original simplicity nostalgic. What do I mean by this? Well, I mainly mean the gameplay for the games, but I guess this entry can also be referring to the lore and premise as a whole. Many people miss the point and click days, and many people miss when FNAF's lore was easy to understand and wasn't super convoluted. I'm sure there are more factors and reasons for people finding FNAF's original simplicity nostalgic, whether it be because early FNAF was simplistic already, or because of other reasons, but regardless of what it actually is, the main concept is the same, with that being because of its simplicity. I too also find FNAF's simplicity nostalgic, but I don't think it's because the games were more simple. Sure, that could be a reason why, but personally I think it's just because when FNAF was simple, it was during, well, like FNAF 1, 2, and 3, when it was like, you know, nostalgic, so I think that's why people correlate the two, but who knows, I could be wrong. FNAF Roblox. Around FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4, and hell, even Sister Location, hell, I lied, even right now, a lot of different Roblox games about FNAF were released, with many of them being very unique and different from one another. These games all had different models, textures, maps, and gameplay due to there not really being any good looking and or official models or anything related to FNAF being released at this time, which gave us a bunch of different games. One of the first FNAF Roblox games I ever remember playing came out literally days after FNAF 1 released, and I think the name of it was something like the Pizzeria or something along those lines. Actually, I just checked, it was released the same day FNAF 1 released. Somehow. I don't even know how that's possible. But yeah, looking back on it, the game's now called Animatronics Awakened, but luckily when looking it up, this game does come up, so thank God it's still here. It is completely different from what it was back when it first came out, and half of the time the game doesn't even load, but it's nice to see that it still exists, as this is the technically first FNAF Roblox game, FNAF fan game, FNAF anything like that ever made. The game was literally just a remake of FNAF 1 and was honestly not that bad for how quick it was made, even if the map and character models were kind of ugly. I also remember the game having a main menu with music that was like really good. It was like techno, it went like dun 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 dun. I don't know, it was like really good, and I can't find it anywhere on the internet, and it kind of like pisses me off to this day, but yeah, I can't find any videos of it or footage of it anywhere online. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, please like let me know what the song is, or like if you've played the game or have any footage of it, because it's like kind of lost media. There's like not really any videos of it online, and it was like the first ever FNAF fan game, Roblox game, whatever. But anyways, yeah, the game was peak, so if you know anything about it, please let me know. FNAF 3 End of Series. Remember when FNAF 3 was supposed to be the last FNAF game? I do, and we see where that ended up. Yeah, FNAF 3 was originally supposed to be the final game in the series, concluding it as a trilogy, and concluding the main storyline, leaving some mysteries unanswered to keep the story ambiguous until Scott folded and made another game, which ultimately spoiled the semi-perfect ending the franchise had. It was very bittersweet seeing all these souls of the missing children finally being laid to rest, and that ending screen along with the somber music really felt like a perfect ending to the franchise. Yes, I know I'm blinded by nostalgia, but again, I don't care. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and this is mine. This ending was great, and it has a sweet spot deep within my heart, and it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite endings in the series. Actually, I lied. It is my favorite ending in the series, especially since the series has a couple ones. This one is my favorite, and I don't know. I still think about it sometimes. FNAF Flash games. Now, if you decide to take a different route from playing the demos, mobile edition, or full games for FNAF, there was another way to play them, and that was by looking them up on Flash websites, because back in 2014 and 2015, many of these Flash websites actually had versions of FNAF that you could just play in the browser that were like exactly one-to-one. There would be no differences, no issues, and the game would be 100% free. The only issues were these small bugs that would happen, and the fact your progress wouldn't save due to it being run on Flash, and not through Steam. I don't remember ever playing any Flash versions of FNAF, but I am sure many people have, especially during school, since these games would be all over the unblocked websites. Personally for me, what I would play on the unblocked websites was Happy Wheels, but you know, everyone's got their own, choice, so. Anyways, next entry. Lost Media. FNAF has a lot of content, especially nowadays, but due to the almost endless amounts of content made about FNAF, it is almost impossible not to mention some of the franchise's lost media, and as each year passes, it becomes easier and easier for FNAF to have new pieces of lost media. But the main piece of lost media I want to specifically mention is the supposedly lost FNAF 1 trailer that was posted on the Scott Cawthon's YouTube channel, because the FNAF 1 trailer that is posted onto his channel now isn't the first one to have been posted. Originally, there was another one that came out one day before the one now seen on his channel was posted, but was shortly deleted and then replaced with the new trailer. It is said that the old trailer had different endoskeleton eyes for the scene where Bonnie takes off his mask, but this can't necessarily be confirmed due to the video, well, not being archived anywhere online before it was unlisted. It is honestly still a mystery even to this day, with no one really knowing if this trailer was different or even really kind of like existed, but I did include a bit more information about it in another video on this channel, which, like the rest, will be included at the end of this video. Scott Games. I lied earlier, this entry is actually going to be the shortest, and that's because I kind of already went over this with the first entry in this iceberg, but anyways, Scott Games is Scott Cawthon's website, where he posted all of his FNAF teasers and updates to it. Yeah, honestly, there isn't really a reason to yap about this anymore, because this is kind of all that needs to be said, so let's get to the next entry. FNAF Troll Games. FNAF Troll Games were some of my most favorite parts of FNAF back in the day. I always hated when Scott would release one of these, even though it happened like only twice, because I remember being so excited to see a new game, and then when one of these released, I thought it was actually going to be something good, like a new game, but then it would turn out to be one of these. I mainly felt this pain when Scott released the FNAF 3 Troll game, but at the end of the day, who still played it to death? Me. I did, because I didn't, what else was I gonna do? Wait for the actual game to come out? No, I was like 11 years old, so I didn't have the patience for that. So I played it anyways, and I still enjoyed and have fond memories of it. I miss when Scott wasn't retired, because even though Steel Wool is great, and they do an amazing job for the franchise, you just don't get stuff like this with them, unfortunately. Nitro Glitch. Now, Nitro Glitch is a name I don't really know if anyone knows except for like me or like a few other people, but they made a lot of FNAF mix-ups and remixes back in the day. And no, I don't mean remixes of like popular FNAF songs like The Living Tombstone or anything like that. I mean like completely original made music that also would incorporate FNAF into it, whether it be with sound effects or with the game's ambience. They found a way to insert it in. These songs were very different compared to any other FNAF songs seen in this iceberg or just kind of like ever made, but they were actually pretty good, mainly because each song was just like an EDM song, and then they would just combine like sound effects and stuff into their music. It was honestly just pretty cool. This, combined with the fact that their thumbnails were also really unique and strange, helped them stand out a lot from other FNAF songs. If you know who I'm talking about, then please comment down below, because it feels like ever since like 2017 or even 2016, everyone has just forgotten about Nitro Glitch. I mean, they were never really that popular, but like they made a lot of really good songs. I mean, he even made other songs based on other popular games around 2015, and they did pretty decent as well. Anyways, yeah, please let me know if you know who this is, or if I'm like the only one who remembers them, because like I don't see anyone talk about them anymore. Cut content. FNAF has had a lot of cut content over the years, but a lot of FNAF's cut content was later revealed to actually have been from the earlier FNAF games, with some of the most nostalgic and popular pieces of cut content being the main stage stair screen, the live system, the toxic meter, along with a ton other. Even though these pieces of early FNAF cut content might not be the most nostalgic thing, it's still a bit interesting to look back on, as a lot of these things, if implemented, could have changed FNAF as we know it, shaping the series into something completely different. Unfortunately, just like some of the early entries, this would take way too long to go over all the cut entries and cut content from way back in the earlier FNAF games, so unfortunately I can't really go over too much, but there's a bunch of videos online about, you know, all the cut content and stuff. Mandela effect. Now this entry is the same concept as the last, just kind of, basically going over some of FNAF's Mandela effects that have happened as years passed, with the most popular one being the main stage stare from FNAF 1. Many people claim that this was in the game, but it was actually never in the code apparently, which is hard to believe because I swear I thought I have seen this happen before during gameplay. Another Mandela effect that has popped up recently is this FNAF 2 camera screen with Toy Chica, where people say that this was never in the game, but was instead just in the game's files, which I know is wrong because I have definitely seen this in game. These are the main ones and most popular ones out there about FNAF, but I'm sure that there will be a couple more to come out in the future, which will probably be lies because there is no way any more could come out about a game like FNAF, especially its early titles. Anyways, again, I want to say thanks to everyone who collabed with me to help make this video possible, along with thanks to you guys if you're still watching. If you want to see more content like this, then on screen right now are the few videos I mentioned throughout this one, like the FNAF Creepypasta Iceberg, Deep Dive in the FNAF Lost Media, and whatever else is on screen. And if you want to see even more videos like this, make sure to subscribe.